Okay, so on Sunday, I went to my local DZ-BT06 Sneak Peak, which is what Bushy Road calls pre-releases. So obviously going into this, I expected it to be fairly terrible. There's currently 3 main detriments in the current version of the game that sort of make sneak peeks kind of bad and almost unplayable in a way, to a point I honestly don't think it's actually worth imprinting them, as cool as they are. But normally when it comes to things like pre-releases, I find they're actually a fairly good way for a new person to get into a game. Obviously it does take a bit of game knowledge, but if you have someone there with you helping you, it can be fairly good, as it's a good start point with limited events. We actually get a new product, you're building a collection from zero essentially, and everyone's going to be basically very similar power levels. You don't have to worry about fighting meta decks and stuff. But unfortunately, with Vanguard, they're just not that good. Yeah, so the first main issue is mostly a set issue rather than a design issue. Majority of all non-lyrical sets have no triggers in them, or very few. They might have these days. You might get the generic Cray Elemental ones that can be used in any nation, which is fine, but you also get like 3 triggers in general per box. It's fairly bad. Usually you expect in one of the lyrical sets, for example, you get 1 copy of every single trigger in the set in a box. Which technically might be the case for standard sets, but then there's 4 different triggers, and in lyrical there's going to be 7. There's 1 heal, 2 crits, 2 front, and 2 draws. So when you buy 4 boxes, you'll basically place it with every trigger, which is enough to build a proper deck with lyrical, as you get 8 crits if you want to do 8 crits, and then most of the normal sets you'll get 4 crits. Then the next set you'll buy, you'll get 4 crits as well, but then they'll be the same crit. So you're basically reliant on buying starter decks and stuff to get your different named crits. But yeah, obviously with this issue they do get around by letting you bring your own triggers now. So you can basically bring, they give you a generic over trigger, but you obviously can bring your own if you have an alt up one. They let you have 9 triggers total, so 1 OT, up to 2 heals, up to 4 of each type to fill in the rest of the gaps. So essentially you'd basically run 4 crits, 2 runs, because draws are very bad with small deck sizes. Don't run draws. And 2 heals and over trigger. Obviously the downside of this is suddenly you're very consistent, like everyone has 4 crits. Yeah, well, we'll get into that a bit later as well. But yeah, so the second point is, because the current standard has ride decks, the only cards with Vanguard effects are cards that are from a ride line. The set I don't think has many ride lines in it. I think it's 2 ride lines in it, which are the stride deck ones, and those are in your EX slots. So, and if you get 5 packs in this event as a zero, so you're going to get a maximum of 5 cards from that pool. So I generally don't think there is. Yeah, so basically don't print generic can be used on rearguard and vanguard anymore things, so you don't get any decent rides. So essentially what I did for my ride line, so I picked the card with a rearguard skill that was less effective. So the worst rearguard effect goes into my ride line, so I don't miss out on it in my main deck. And then my grade 4, so I didn't get any grade on my grade 3, I didn't get any grade 3, so I did anything on Vanguard. I went for the one that had a Persona ride copy. So theoretically, if the game lasted long enough, which I think 1 game did that I saw, but generally the games don't last very long. I got Persona ride. And the third issue, which is huge and actually in a way sort of defeats the purpose of going to nations rather than clans, is everything's name restricted. There are some generics that can be used in anything, but most actual stuff in a set is name restricted. So you'll have cards that require a certain Vanguard, which means they can't be used in other decks. Back when we had the old sealed, you'd have, like, for example, a limited booster, you'd have 3 different clans in, and you can use all of the clans together, it's fine, but none of the Dino Robos would require the specific Dino Robo name as your Vanguard, so you can use your Dino Robos with your Mega Colony units, with your whatever else is in that set, and yeah, it just, yeah, so what they've done, they've gone from this is bad because there's like, I can't remember how many clans there are, there's like 15. Because there's 15 different clans, some people wait a very long time for support. And now we've gotten to a point where, now that we've got 100 different ride lines, or Orange Pick can only be used with stuff for that ride line, people are waiting for support. And I think they may have justified this by being like, oh yeah, but the good generics will help you improve your decks. But then, where they've gone design-wise, as everything's getting so much more powerful, they have to print support to make the other decks more, like, to be able to keep up. Because the really powerful ride lines get access to the same support as all the slower ride lines. And they just sort of, like, missed the boat a lot. They sort of made the game worse, which is kind of bad. Like, I think, like, actually going to nations in a way was good for, like, generic stuff. Like, they could just print one generic card of everything, but honest to God, they probably should have just kept in clans. And both clan units and nation units. And all with generic support being just nation-wise. And we just got rid of name restrictions. That way you could actually mix and match different Vanguards. But yeah, so as for the actual event, obviously we only had 4 players. So it was only 2 rounds. The first game, I think we got to grade 3. It was still very quick because you just crit and do 2 damage to people, and because in limited version of Vanguard you only go to 4 damage, so it's over really quickly. And then the second game I had, I crit the guy twice in a row and I won on turn 2. So going second is definitely the way to go in sealed, and then you just crit them and they die. As for like how I'd rate the games weren't very good. It was funny though. Like, if you take it as like a non-serious, just have a laugh, I think it's okay, but I think as an actual interesting event, it's severely lacking. And trouble is, I don't think with their current design philosophy, I don't think they can make it better. They literally can't. I think not bringing your own triggers to a lyrical pre-release would probably, Sneak Peek would probably actually be okay, and just use what you get in your packs. I would probably make it a bit less consistent, but then you'll still have all the other issues of you have a bunch of stuff that just won't work with each other, and you'll gain nothing from riding half the time. I forgot to mention a one, and that's for playing the playmat under the deck. Oh yeah, and this is just the deck I drafted, or sealed rather. I think I may have been the only person with PG, but I never used it. As for like the deck itself, synergy wise, obviously there's not going to be a huge amount due to how things are, but there was there was 2 cycles of generic cards. One was a grade 2, which means let you energy blast free to give it 5k power and let it boost. And then there's a grade 1, which when it boosts, if you're energy blasted 3 or more this turn, as one effect I believe, it gets 5k power. So you get the fairly decent sized lines just with that. I think I had a couple copies of each at very least. But yeah, other than that there was not much synergy. It was a tiny bit to make it work. But yeah, that was my experience on the Sneak Peek I went to. It was a bit of a disaster, a really funny disaster. It was a disaster. Yeah, so thank you for coming. The next video I'm probably going to do a video on my predictions for this year's festival collection. We still don't know what's coming in it, and I have some ideas. I have one card I'm pretty sure is going to be in it. And then there's a couple cards I think should be in it. And I think I'll just make a list of things and talk about what they announced about it so far, and then just, or maybe we'll compare against it later when the set actually comes out. But yeah, I will see you all in a couple of weeks' time.